Oh.
Hey, hey, everybody. I am so excited to have Caitlin here with me today because Caitlin and I actually worked together, gosh, a little over 2.5 years ago is when we started our journey. And you are
Mhm.
still out and about doing amazing, beautiful things in the world. And I get to keep up from a distance, but sometimes it takes us a while to reconnect and catch up. And so I'm excited to dive into a conversation today about what you have been up to and also just like have an opportunity to like re-explore what our journey was like and really the ways that we both, I think, helped each other grow. So I'm excited to get into that
Absolutely.
today. Before we do that, Caitlin, tell everybody who you are and what you do in the world.
Yeah, I love it. And that is a broad question. Our
I know,
we
right?
do currently our family is traveling around the globe. We've been doing it for about 2.5 years. We've been to 25 countries. We still have a couple more continents to hit, but the goal is 7 continents in 3 years with our three small kids. And so the brand that we chose for ourselves was All Over the Map Family because we are the most all over map humans, literally and figuratively, that I have. So Cassandra and I met when I was doing virtualcoachingsales.com, which is still one of our brands. And now we're launched the ecstaticway.com, which is business coaching and consulting, virtual coaching sales with sales recruitment. Um, but yeah, we do all kinds of crazy stuff like book publishing, relationship coaching, kids novels, like you name it, I've probably tried it. And that's actually why I needed Cassandra. I was like, I am so all over the map. I can't even find where I am on the map. Like I need somebody who can cartography this whole craziness and tell me where I am in connection with where I want to be and where I've come and sort of put some continuity on this journey of ours. So yeah, it's been quite the adventure.
I think one of the things that I love about working with you is that one of the things we have in common is being able to hold a big vision. And
Mm.
I think that being able to come alongside you and you being able to explain all of these beautiful, brilliant ideas that you have and me getting it and being bought in immediately, like, yes, we're going to create this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's one of my joys is being able to work with visionaries like you because I think when we were catching up briefly yesterday, you were talking about like how you can create whole worlds and business plans and maps like in a day. And like, I know this about you. And I just think it's delightful the ways that you're able to create so quickly and at such like a caliber. So I think
Mhm.
that though you may have felt all over the map, I think that that's one of my joys is being like, okay, here's the giant vision. And then this is
Mhm.
how we're going to create the roadmap to make that happen. And you were in an
Right.
interesting like place. I know when we met our mutual friend and colleague Janine connected us because I remember you put out a post something to the effect of I'm
I was
looking for yeah. Do you remember that post?
I was like, do you remember what post you even responded to? So my post is this like gif of a magical unicorn dancing through the fields with a rainbow flowing out behind them. And I was like, gonna be honest, y'all, I need a unicorn. Like I know that the thing I'm about to ask the universe for is hard to find. And I need you all to help me find my unicorn. Because what I needed was somebody who was good at sales because we were a sales organization, right? You just need to know what the heck we're doing in the world. And I needed somebody who's good at operations. And historically, these are polar opposites, right? They repel each other like oil and water. So I was like, I need this magical human who is really good at sales and understands our sales philosophy and is also really good at operations and kind of herding the cats because we've got a lot of cats in this organization. And and so I was like, I need somebody who has big picture vision because I am a 9 quick start. Like visionary is always my top archetype that comes up and somebody who can also, because this is a weakness of mine, dot the I's and cross the T's. Like, so I need somebody who doesn't get annoyed by the fact that I'm going to throw out 15 new, like, entire business models in a 15-month period of time, and can also make sure that I sent the proposal, that everything in the proposal was accurate, that we like made sure that there was a, I don't even know what I like, alert notification. Like these are the sorts of details that I'm like, every time I have to like take my eyes off the horizon and look down at the map and say, oh, I have no idea where we are. Like this just takes me out of my creative vortex. It means that I'm not being the leader that I need to be for the organization. So having some person who's like, I hear what you're saying. You say you want to get to the mountain. I'm looking at the mountain thing and like, we have got a chasm and 3 rivers that we need to cross. So I know you want to go this way, but actually we need to go this way.
Or at least we need to build a really creative system to get over those rivers and
All right, where's the zip line? We are going.
Well, and that's what I love too, is I think that like figuring out what are those creative solutions that are going to optimize the process and get people there quicker, faster, right? So
Yes.
especially visionaries, like you said, a 9 quick start, like somebody who wants to be out of the gate, I have to be on my toes and be like, okay, how do we get there as quickly as possible? So that like same thing that you were saying, but the opposite side, I'm not frustrating you by creating so much lag that you're like, let me go.
Oh, yeah. My best friend in college, because we decided we were going to lead the Shakespeare Theater Company in college as freshmen, right? We've had 1 semester on our belt. And we're going to lead this thing. Not our brightest idea, but visionary quick start. Like, why not?
Yeah.
And she's my opposite, and her job is to make sure that we have the schedules set out and everybody has a script and all of these like little details. And she dubbed herself like the dream crusher. Like that was her job description. Was dream crusher. Like, Caitlin, I know you want pyrotechnics. We are not doing pyrotechnics. Like, and so it was funny because I've always had that person like as a best friend, or my husband is my life partner and he's also operations minded, or right? Or now we have Heather who's in this role for us. And like I need that person who is deeply grounded and very like even keeled, and who says, yes, I know that you want to throw the steering wheel around. I'm just going to have you like talk about throwing the steering wheel while I keep my hands on the steering wheel. And then when you finally decide when you want to make a right turn, I will slowly and deliberately turn the steering wheel in that direction. Um, but you were never the dream crusher. You were like the dream enabler. Like, okay, I see where you're going. I know where you want to head. Let's not just jerk back and forth. Let's, for the sake of the team and all of the clients who are already on this ship,
Yeah.
I'm mixing my metaphors. On the bus, we've got a bus now.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to make more deliberative decisions. We're going to have some conversations. We're going to come to a consensus, and then we're going to have a rollout timeline. Like, so that sort of thing is like, I recognize that my 9 quick start is an advantage and also a disadvantage. Like most of our strengths in our life, it is a double-edged sword. And so how can I keep the benefits of my strength really honed, really sharp, really on edge, and also mitigate the downside and the risk and the whiplash that I can give people within my organization and externally if I'm just following my whims willy-nilly.
Yeah, and I think that like yes to all of that. I think that like when Janine was like, I think I found your unicorn, and she had directed my attention to that post, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like speaking to my heart so much. Yes, yes, systems, processes, sales. I love it. Hi.
And sometimes here in Greece.
Oh, what time did you say it was in Greece there?
What time is it? 9 o'clock. So yes, he's like, when is snuggle time?
Well, I'm sorry, we're cutting into snuggle time.
No, I had to shift my whole time, so we now work from 4 p.m. to midnight. So we have snuggles in the morning. We have breakfast and lunch and family time. It just different times of days than we used to have it back in the States. So yeah, you just got to flex with wherever you are.
Well, and I think that was like a kind of this is a, kind of a beautiful segue into like the point, the pivotal point that you were at in your business and in your life as I was coming in. And I think that the thing that seemed to be the catalyst was this desire to be taking your family on this all over the map journey and needing somebody who could handle the day-to-day operations, who understood vision very clearly, understood strategy and implementation. And so that enter me. And so being able to set up your family to be able to actualize that time and location freedom that you had, again, brilliantly visioned and was crafting and helping that unfold. But it really took a lot of trust on your side to say, I need somebody to come in and hit the ground running. I think that the first time I met with one of your clients, like we had a co-created client meeting, you and I were recapping after, you're like, I hope that was all right. I just threw you in the deep end. I was like, yep, ready to swim. Let's do it. And so I remember you just having so much trust. And I think that like, that's hard a lot of times, I think, for business owners, founders, creators, especially those who are very passionate about what they do and have been the one doing the service or the client delivery for all of the business. So what was that like to let go of some of that like day-to-day control and day-to-day decision making and saying, I'm going to entrust Cassandra to take this on? What was that like for you?
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. Like, this is our baby. We've been growing this for 12 years or however long we've been growing this. And so instinctively, I think it's very natural for us as the starting owners and leaders of our organization to like hold on pretty tightly. And I feel like you need an equally compelling vision to start prying those fingers off the steering wheel, if we're continuing with the steering wheel metaphor, right? So you need to have a reason to let go. So a lot of my clients are like, oh, well, I want more free time. I want to reduce the hours that I'm working in my business. I'm like, so what? Like, so that you can do what? And they're like, well, don't I just want to work less? I'm like, no, because if you just cut your hours in half, like you will find more work to fill it, right? This is why every time I had a baby, my business doubled and my workload halved because I had a external reason that I needed to make more money and I had fewer hours to do it in, right? So is it Parkinson's law? Like your work expands to fill the amount of time that you give it. It's one of those things. So you need to start having a reason that your work is less important than your life, right? So having a baby, great one. For us, it was travel. For some of you, it might be health, right? I need to start exercising more. I need to take time off. But don't just like go and say, I'm going to walk, like schedule time with an accountability buddy to go walking or hire a personal trainer. If you want to travel, book the vacation, right? We set a date. We knew it was July 2021. We are hitting the road. COVID hit. Well, this took 2 years, right, for us to get ready to travel the world. This was not like this sounds fun. But so in the middle of that 2-year planning, COVID hits, and we're like, I'm curious how that's going to play out. And you know what? By the end, like it did affect us, but we were still committed. We're like, we're going to whoever will let us show up. So Peru and Chile did not let us in, but Paraguay and Argentina did. So we got to see the east coast of South America instead of the west coast of South America. So being flexible with that, because you never know what your plans are going to be, right? Planning is essential. Plans are useless. So making sure that you have this vision of what's drawing you to the other side, because letting go is uncomfortable. Most of us love our work, even when it drives us crazy. Like it's still fulfilling and feeding sometimes our souls and sometimes our egos, but always in an ideal situation, our bank accounts. So you have to have a really compelling vision and motivation to start releasing that to somebody and making sure that you have somebody you trust, like Sandra. So it's having that piece where you're like, okay, it's time for me to let go. Hopefully it doesn't take a 2x4 to the head. We've had a couple of those like universe interventions where the universe is like, I was giving you these clues that it was time for you to start working less and you didn't. So now you're sick.
Mhm.
um, so it's like being intentional. Who was I just talking to? I was just talking with one of our newest clients, and he has this big vision that he wants to birth into the world. And he's like, but I'm trapped in my day-to-day operations. I'm like, dude, here's the thing. Either you are going to plan your birth with a midwife and it's going to be in your location and you're going to have a beautiful experience, or you're going to get a 2x4 to the head and we're going to have an emergency C-section and we're going to have to rip this thing out of your belly and it's going to be messy. Right? But
Right.
either way, this thing is getting birthed. You just get to decide how you want this to look. Are we going to do it intentionally over a 2 to 3 year window? Or are you just suddenly going to have a heart attack and realize that life is too short for you to kill yourself in the yoke, and now we're throwing it all out the window and we're just going to go live in a shack, right? So it's one of those things where the clearer you are on what you want, the easier it is for you to start calling in the resources and laying out the path for you to get there.
Definitely. And I think that you said a little bit ago about like plans are everything, plans are useless. And I think that like
Mhm.
that's something that like sometimes my clients, as they're considering working with me, like kind of feel just on the like plans are useless side, right? And so because they're used to really being, if they're high achievers and they're used to being able to trust their instincts, trust their intuition, which is beautiful because they're also
Mhm.
brilliant and talented human. So they've been able to achieve that much that far
Yeah.
without necessarily having a real clear plan. And I agree that it is both everything and useless. It is giving you, like you said, that external direction and that's external clarity that also is going to shift and be dynamic. And I think that that's
Mhm.
another thing that I really appreciate about you and how your brain works is that understanding of both pieces of that. We plan so that we can be that fast action taker, so that we have a clear path forward, so we can be making really informed, smart decisions and be able to recalculate like a GPS really quickly when we already know what the destination is, right? So
Mhm.
I think that that is something that sometimes people have to have a little bit of like belief shift to happen to
Mhm.
say, this is why a plan is important. It may feel like a weighty thing to have to slow down and create, but really
Mhm.
it's actually that rocket fuel that's going to help you take off. And like you said, like the very, very graphic analogy you gave about it's going to come out one way or the other. We can either do it in this really beautiful planned way and have this midwife, or it's going to be in a way that doesn't feel or look good the way that you want it to. So thank
Mhm.
you for mapping that out. I think that like another piece of this like trust and other people in your business, I think that like and tell me what your experience has been with this, both working with me, but just generally with the work that you do with clients, of like, we have the as business owners and creators, we have the privilege of learning from our own mistakes and being able to revision and remap and recalculate. And especially those of us who are visionaries and creatives, like that happens even
Mhm.
more quickly, I think. What has the process been like though, when people are bringing people in to work inside their business and they're making decisions that either you would not make, or maybe even end up being a mistake or a wrong step, and having someone else make a mistake in your business? And again, you can talk from your perspective. Even with me, I know there were some missteps.
No, no, I was laughing because we just did a summit launch and one of my friends sent me like a screenshot, like, I just got 6 unpersonalized like text messages from you in the last 5 minutes. Like, they're all wrong. Like, hi, bracket, name, bracket, like, welcome to day 5 of the summit. We start now. And this is day 2 of a 2-day summit. And we start in 2 hours. And I was just like, oh, oh, all of, all of the feelings,
Yeah.
like the burning skin, the hyperventilation, like, ah, right. And this is where like years of mindset work and personal development kick in because like there's like this metacognition that's like, I see that you're about to go into a spiral of self despair and shame. Would you like to rethink your life choices? I have an alternative route for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So internal process, right? So the ecstatic way is all built on this framework that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, right? In this case, mistakes are inevitable, crying over them is optional, right? So this internal dialogue of, how interesting. We had a set of facts. We're now telling a story. If the story is, my team is completely incompetent, heads are going to roll, I'm going to look like an idiot, nobody's ever going to buy from me ever again, this has completely destroyed our reputation in the industry. Like, we have the immediate emotional response of suffering, agony, despair, anger, right?
Yeah.
All of these, what I call below the line emotional responses. And then it's like, then we would make decisions out of scarcity, out of fear, right? When we're in our lower brain hemisphere, we do not make good decisions, right? So it's like, okay, stop, breathe. Let's rethink the story. What's a different possible interpretation we could have of the same set of facts? Well, different interpretation would be, you know what? The thing my clients love about me is the fact that I'm human. The fact that when I make mistakes, I own them. I laugh at them. I acknowledge them. I learn from them. And then I let them go. Right. So it's like grace is one of our key values. And now you get to decide, how does this show up? And if it clears all of the people who want you to be perfect and stand on a pedestal and they are no longer subscribed to your list, fantastic. This has actually made our marketing stronger. Right. And I was like, okay, internal protocol. We have soothed, we have found a new story, we are having a different emotional response. We have found our way to at least acceptance, if not gratitude yet. We'll work our way to gratitude eventually. And then I was like, oh, and we also have a secondary protocol. This is our external protocol. External protocol is, where is the gap? If we find, as soon as we find a gap,
Yeah.
is there a system, right? And this is where you come in. Right? Is there a system? If the answer is no, there is no system. Well, we get to build a system.
Yay.
If the answer is yes, we have a system, then the next question we get to ask is, did everybody follow the system?
Yeah.
In this case, we didn't have a system and nobody followed it. So it was great. So then we get to train the person, right? So now we train them in the system. And then the third one is, yes, we had a system and everybody followed the system and the system didn't work. We still have a gap. Now we get to update the system.
Yeah.
So it's like all of your business and frankly, your personal life can fit into this rubric. Like either it's build a system, train a human, or update the system.
Yeah.
And that makes leadership so much easier because nothing's personal at this point. Like either it's a systems problem or it was a leadership training problem, right? It was not my team's fault. It was my fault as the leader because we did not have a system in place and we did not do adequate training. So I get to take personal responsibility. And I don't know if this works for everybody, but me taking personal responsibility is always easiest because then I'm back in the driver's seat because now I can fix it. Right? If somebody else blew it and somebody else is responsible, I'm giving away my power and I can't change the outcome. But when I re-own, Michael and I abide by radical personal responsibility, right? Then I get to shift the outcome. And I'll just say on the personal side, this system works as well for things like small children getting out the door to school in the morning. So one morning we had a particularly hard time to get everybody in the car. And I was like, okay, Usha, do we have a system? I was like, yes, we have a system. Jackets by the door, homework completed the night before, lunch is made and in the fridge, clothes laid out the night before. Like we had a system. And I was like, did everybody follow the system? I was like, no, they did not follow the system. Great opportunity to train the small humans to follow the system. And for myself, like I was not the leader that I needed to be to show up and execute and hold my team, my little team, accountable to following the system.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful to remember that when you're looking to scale your business, you either have a systems problem or you have a training problem. That's
Yeah.
it. Um,
Absolutely. And I think that like being able to, when you answer that first question, do we have a system? And the answer is yes. Not always jumping to the conclusion that the team must have done something wrong, even if they, like you said, like followed it the way that they should have, or maybe they missed some small piece. Like it really may be a leadership training issue, or it is that they did everything they were supposed to. And like you said, it's just that the system wasn't optimized or built for
yep.
that particular situation. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
I think that so often we can accidentally as leaders be like, I already built a system. If it's not working, it's their problem, right? Like the tiny humans. And you go, no. Maybe the system wasn't built in a way that supports them the way that they need to, and that's why we didn't follow it. That's why this broke down. Or because I think that happens so often is like businesses will build a system or a process, but then people don't follow it. And you go, well, why aren't they following it? Maybe it is a training thing. Maybe it's that system was not built in the way that actually supports the people who need to use the system, right? And I think that that's what I'm often coming in. And when I'm doing my business wellness assessments is doing exactly what you're saying. Like we're looking at where do we have systems? Are they working? Are they not? Do we have the people who are trained to use them? And if not, do we need team? And what needs to be optimized, right? And I think that one of the places that I learned working with you, first of all, just like full disclosure to those who are like watching in, is that when I started working with Caitlin, though I had been doing this kind of work for a long time, I had never called myself a COO. I just was like, these are all of my skills and these are the things I do for businesses. And she's actually the first person to call me her COO. And I was like, huh. And I looked at it and I went, that's a much easier way to say what I'm doing. And I think that that's one of your brilliances too, is being able to help people distill down messages, titles, those kinds of things. And I tend to be someone who overcomplicates some of that. And so I think that was, again, where some of our geniuses came together. And you would just be like, this is my COO, Cassandra. And I was like, yes, I am doing all of those things. And so I think that that's how, like, you helped me be able to communicate and articulate what I do for my clients by the work that I was doing with you, even though luckily the work that we were doing together, like you just had enough trust from, I guess, borrowed trust from Janine to be like, and your intuition, right? I think that you and I met and you're just like, yep, I can tell you're my unicorn, super excited. So I was grateful that the way that I was communicating about what I did made it clear enough for you, even if it wasn't necessarily clear for everybody. But one of the places that I think that our skills and strengths complement each other, but also, like you said, there's a double edge to everything, right? Is that I come in and I'm much better at this than I used to be, but I come in and I go, oh, these are all the things that we need to create and do. And I did that in your business and I wanted to implement everything right away. And that can overload a business, especially when it's not ready, especially when it's going into transition. And you and I have the shared value of radical responsibility, personal responsibility. I also have a value of radical candor. So I was just really honest and transparent with you. I was like, these things need to be fixed. And I think that sometimes I can over heighten. So I think that that's where I should have trusted a little more into your ability, that you had built something that has clearly been working this long. And so it didn't need to be fixed yesterday. Like we can create, you know what I mean? And so I had such a deep desire to be like, okay, all the systems, all the process. And I think that I tried to go a little too fast in your business to create that structure. And when you're building in that infrastructure, If it happens too quickly, it can feel rigid, and then rigidity, we know, breaks, right? So I think that that is one place that I'm grateful that I learned with you, and that you were a gracious leader, and said, yep, those are systems and processes that we need to create. And maybe we don't need to do them all at once. I think that one of the things that I was grateful for your gracious leadership too is because of my nature to be radically candid, and because that's where I am a quick start. I'm like, okay, let's do all the things right now. And that's where our quick starts are the same. We were already in process with some clients. And what was interesting is that by me sharing with one of those clients, hey, these are things that we're missing in what we promised you, but I'm going to do them. It was interesting because they ended up, what was beautiful is we learned that they were just not a right fit for you. But we had to learn the hard way. I'm sorry still about that. But what was interesting is that going through that journey of sharing that with the client and saying, hey, we're going to build this out for you. It was not something we communicated. I think the right ideal client would have been like, oh, beautiful. I'm getting even more for my value. I'm getting all of this that I didn't even know. And that wasn't really the journey that we went on with them. And I'm curious just to hear, like, now that we have some distance and some perspective on that situation, like what would you say, like, bringing somebody in like me who is going to be doing a lot of direct client facing work, like what was that lesson like? What was the journey like? Tell me more now that we have some space on that.
Yeah, and I feel like my biggest shift has been moving away, like prioritizing right fit clients, to your point, right? So I think there's a season in most entrepreneurs' business where they're like, if you're going to give me money, I'm going to say yes, and we're going to take it, and we're going to do whatever you need us to do. Like, I will promise anybody to anybody, anything to anyone, anything to anyone for any dollar, right? And I've come to realize, like, yeah, that's just not worth it. Like, so I think the biggest thing for us was, right, aligning to the value of grace, finding clients who actually appreciated that quality in us rather than having unrealistic expectations and us being constantly feeling like we're behind. I mean, like we were always going above and beyond in our delivery,
Yeah.
but it was never enough, right? And so recognizing that there are going to be clients who it doesn't matter how much you do, it's never enough. And there are clients who show up and they're profoundly grateful and they're ready to receive and they love you and they appreciate you as a human, right?
Yeah.
That they want you to have a life and and to enjoy your existence on this planet. And then there are going to be the clients who have no appreciation for that. So making sure that you are working with clients who love you as much as you love them, right? That there is this culture of reciprocal grace. And I think for us, like, your question is hard. If you have them doing client facing, I think it is important to make sure that you guys are culturally aligned, right? So to your point, we had referral, so trust by extension and intuition, which was really great.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I think what was happening was like there was just value matching. Like you and I shared values and we thought about the problem the same way. And so I could trust you that even if you said something that wasn't actually in alignment with how we do things, because you didn't know that I've tried that 15 million times and I always hit a brick wall.
Yep.
Like you got to the same, like, this seems like a good thing, by the same route that I did the first time I did it. And those values are what's driving it. And so then I can come in and say, oh yeah, I see why you did that. I see where you were going and how you arrived at that conclusion. And here's the case study of how we banged our head against that wall a couple of times and why we've decided that the brick wall is staying and we are going a different route. And so if you have people who are really gifted and really talented and are amazing partners like you coming into the organization, you guys are both seeing it from the lens of ownership. You're both coming at it from the lens of giving value. You're both coming to it as a lens of value of how does this like sustain the entire entity, not just accomplish today's mission, but like not just win the battle, but win the war, right? So if you have somebody that can see it at that level and support you, then the little ups and downs, it's fine because you share values, you share vision, you're both going to the same place. They might take a little detour, but you can bring them back.
Yeah.
But if you have somebody who's like actively trying to take your company in a different direction because they have a different values set, it gets really hard because you're not on the same page. Even if they're doing everything right, you'll still want to kick them off the team. So I would say the vision and the values match is the most important detail. And then everything else is just training.
I love it. Yeah. And I think I agree. And I think that being able to always bring, whether it's somebody like me who is coming in as a contractor and a leader partner in that kind of way, or it's somebody that you're bringing in as a full-time team member or employee, that you're able to be values aligned. And that's why a lot of times people will ask me, Cassandra, like, what industry do you work with, or what industries are you focused on? And I honestly usually say I'm industry agnostic. What matters to me is making sure that we are values and mission aligned. If I do not feel like I can be mission aligned and values aligned with somebody, I know they're not for me. And so I think that's really what I focus on when I'm helping people bring in other team members too. If you hire for value, then you're going to or values, not value. That's different. So, you want to have a good value for your hire. Values, then that is going to be always, you can always teach people things. You can always train people in skill. What you can't do is really train people in values, or if you can, it's a lot harder, right?
Yeah. With salespeople, we always decided I would rather have somebody who has a big heart and the right vision, but no sales skills, than a professional closer who's a shark, but doesn't understand why the company exists. Now, ideally, you find them both, and that's fantastic. But if I have to pick one or the other, I'll take heart every day.
Yep, 100%. And I think that was one of the other things that we found alignment on. I think that you and Janine were the first two people, I think, in the world that really were talking about sales in the same way that I was. I always saw it as a service and as something I was doing in care, or this like kind of sacred process, right? That I am walking alongside someone in this journey. And I was just out here having those feelings about sales, and I didn't know like anybody else personally who felt that way. And so when I became friends with Janine and then got connected to you, I was like, this makes so much sense, because this is your approach and your worldview. And so I think that like that's also, I think, just not in sales, really kind of your philosophy in life. So I don't know, like, can you talk a little bit about how your philosophy is about sales, since I brought it up, and then just kind of how that value expands into other areas of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, my tagline, the thing that took me from like wallflower who hated the phone and couldn't sell anything to save her life, like I lost every single Girl Scout cookie competition imaginable, hated sales, to now being like telesales evangelist, right? What shifted was I realized that sales is an act of love and service, that people's destinies change at the point of decision. So it's not like we get to change their lives after they're a client. We change their lives on the sales conversation, right? And so I love that you use the word sacred, because I do feel like salespeople get to do what nobody but the priests do anymore, which is just hold space for the highest vision and hopes and dreams and our deepest, most terrifying fears, right? And you can hold in less than 60 minutes. You can hold somebody in a way that they have never been held before. And I routinely have people cry on sales conversations because they've never even had a safe space where they could even talk about these things, articulate these hopes and these fears. So when I realized that, like, this is where we change people's lives, it really allowed me to just breathe into this experience. And it's not about got to close the deal, got to get the paycheck. I'm not fighting them for the sake of my commission. It's you and me fighting together against your fears. It's you and me together working as a team to overcome the challenges that are stopping you from what's next in your life. And so that ended up kind of, I mean, that's what the ecstatic business is all about, right? We teach people how to build businesses that is centered on their client success, right? How do you make every person that you work with a raving fan or a case study that you can use out in the world and the marketplace? So I like to say everybody is always sold on me, whether or not they buy from me. And so when you're in these sales conversations, my objective on every sales call is to love and serve that person in front of me at the highest possible level.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the outcome of the sale is. Like, if it's right for them, I will absolutely fight for them. Like, you need to be in here. Let's make this happen. If it's not right for them, happy to let them go. I will probably send them to my competitor if that's what's the better fit for them, because I am winning 100% of my game. My game is to love and serve people at the highest level. And then I trust the universe that they will bring me the right people at the right time in the right way, so that we also hit our KPIs. But like that giving, the other thing that kind of made it easy for me to give without feeling resentful, because I think a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs have been in experiences where they've given more than they've received. And on sales calls, it can feel like you give a lot, was realizing I might be able to outgive an individual, but I can never outgive God or the universe, whatever your word is, right? So it's like it's safe for me to invest deeply in total strangers, because nobody is ever just a total stranger, right? That they are just a part of this entire ecosystem that we're living in. And I know that by investing in this human, there will always be more that is paid 10 times over, 100 times over in dividends elsewhere. And so that makes it really easy to be able to be generous with time, with love, with strategy. Knowing that you're always taken care of is really a big element of our ecstatic way framework. Is just everything is always working out for your highest good and the highest good of all involved. Everyone is always doing the best they can with what they have and where they're at, right? If you get these two mantras down, and then my personal one is I'm always taken care of, right? Yeah. So if you know that you are always taken care of, that everybody's always doing their best and everything's going to work out, like, there's not a lot that you can get spun around the axle with. Like, these will always bring you back into a state of either compassion, gratitude, or trust. And I was like, I can't teach you to be happy, but I can teach you to be grateful. I can teach you to be compassionate, and I can teach you how to trust yourself, others, and God better, right? And so it turns out, if you can get those three qualities, which are always exactly within your control, then it feels an awful lot like happiness. It's amazing how we can get pretty close to this vision if we're willing to like stop and remember the truths that are buried in our soul and tell a different story.
Yeah. And I think that, like, even as you were describing those words, I think like even beyond happiness, it's like a deep peace, like, which is sometimes, at least for me, that feeling is even better than happiness, because there's a level of just like you were saying earlier, right? Yeah. And I think that what you were describing about being able to hold space for people, I think that like Janine was the first. The fun fact, I met her because she was a salesperson for me. She sold me into a program, and so like that's literally how our friendship started. Is that she started off as my salesperson.
Fun fact, Janine started out as my salesperson on my team that I was training on sales.
Oh my goodness. Yes. And so sales is what brought us all together, which is beautiful. Yes. And like, yes, I think it's funny. I guess I said my salesperson, I was her, I don't know, prospect, I guess is a better way to say it. But she really demonstrated that for me. And I was like, oh, this is what I strive for, creating and being able to experience that on the receiving end was so beautiful. And then, when you're able to cultivate that for others, that's when the magic happens. I know I'm going to get on a total tangent about this for a second, but I think you'll appreciate it. When you were like talking about universe or God or whatever term fits for people, I recently heard somebody say, you know, God, universe, source, whatever feels right, or we can shorten it to Gus, Gus, God,
I
universe.
just heard that too.
Oh my gosh. And so now lately I've been just saying Gus because I think it's
Yes.
adorable and I love it. And just think it's a beautiful, like cute, inclusive way. And I'm like, so thanks to Gus, we are in this place.
My business partner is a druid who worships Gaia, and I'm like Christ follower over here. So we have like this extremely ecumenical culture where I'm just like, talk to your higher ups, like whatever you call them. Just talk to the higher ups and get this sorted.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you are somebody who is always in this like growth mindset, evolution of yourself and creator. I know you're creating a lot of things lately. What are some of the things, since I know that we work together in virtual sales and being able to create all of that for your launch into your world travel. I know that I also had the privilege of working with you and one of your other business partners and one of your other businesses, which was delightful. But like, you just are so impressive. You're always creating something. You've written many books over the last couple of years, right? You have your new business show. Tell us a little bit about the creations that you've been able to create since you've launched on your world journey.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, so one of the like side tangents was we launched a children's novel series kind of built around a fictionalized version of our family. So the kids got to see their name in print. So World Mystery Academy Pursuit in Paris was the first one. And then I have a fully completed second novel that is still just sitting in my thing because I haven't prioritized just getting it off the Kindle. But you know, that'll happen eventually. We're working on The Ecstatic Way. That'll probably be coming out next year as a book. Yeah, I feel like Ecstatic Way is sort of like my life purpose. I'm still trying to figure out the business model around it because I feel like I want everything to feel ecstatic. I want your business to feel ecstatic. I want your life to feel ecstatic. I want your marriage to feel ecstatic. I want parenting to feel ecstatic. I want your art to feel ecstatic. Like, I'm really clear on the brand feeling.
Yeah.
But in terms of like all of the things that we can do, I feel like I'm just trying to, God and I are having this conversation about what gets birthed first. Like I can see the entire panoply in 10 years, it's going to be glorious. But for right now, we're still figuring out how do we work with. So right now, the Ecstatic Business School is the first thing that we've launched. And then probably kind of done for you services for entrepreneurs to support them in that mission. So yeah, we're kind of figuring out what this business model is like. But for me, the personal mission is how do we end emotional suffering for 1 billion humans? So anything that I can do right now is just how do we get this framework into more people's hands and give them the tools to take ownership of their internal state, because a lot of entrepreneurs get into business because they want more freedom and they think about money freedom and they think about time freedom, but they don't always think about emotional freedom. And for me, that's where it all starts and ends. Like, what is the point of what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? So making sure that when we're building things with intention, with heart, so that when we get to that mountaintop, we're not worse off than we were when we started.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's interesting. I created this banner for you even before we started about time and location freedom extraordinaire, because I do think that is it. But I love, and now I'm just going to be real meta about the fact that we're going to add emotion. How did you say it?
Emotional freedom.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Yes. I think that what I really love about what you described about the ecstatic way, I think that really strong visionaries have like, this is what I'm creating for the world. And we're going to have all of these different modalities and different ways in which we are going to create that. And so, like you said, figuring out how do we birth this and or which things do we birth first, right? Like you are not someone who is ever going to be short of creative ideas and vision, but
Yeah.
figuring out what is the next best thing for my life, for my business, for my family, and for the world, right? What does the world need next? And I think that that's an interesting journey that we all are on. There we go. I did it. Time, location, and emotional freedom extraordinaire. I'm impressed that I was able to multitask.
That was some serious multitasking. Yep.
But being able to, I lost my train of thought because I was celebrating my
You're like,
oh my
which
gosh.
is awesome.
We're talking about in a business mentorship program that I'm a part of, we were just having the discussion about one of the double edges of being a visionary and being able to be in tune with the world is that sometimes we get ahead of the world, and so the world is not quite ready. They're going to be ready, but if we don't quite get the timing right, then it's not going to blossom the way it needs to. And I think that that's been an interesting part of my journey, and I think that yours as well, of like getting in tune with the timing. We may be very excited. We might see very clearly why the world needs exactly what we have just been able to craft, but the world may not quite be ready. So how have you kind of navigated that for yourself?
Whew, that is changing actually. So I think most of my life was spent driven, and now I'm feeling drawn. So this idea that I'm moving, like I was running away from my fears of being inadequate, not enough, never having enough. And that energy of being driven by one's demons is very different than being drawn by one's dreams, right? And so this idea, like, I can now see a future where I am happy and at peace, and my family is happy and at peace, and my clients are happy and at peace. Like, and that's the end goal. Like, can I make you a heck of a lot more money? Yes, absolutely. I would love to make you more money. And for me, at the end of the day, is are you happy and at peace? So we can't create an end state using a different. So I can't help you create a life of happiness, joy, and fulfillment if from a place of scarcity and suffering, right? It's like, I know you want this thing, but in order to get this thing, you ironically have to have the thing, right? So we need to get you to a place where you can find alignment, even when your circumstances aren't ideal, even when you aren't sure what tomorrow is going to hold. How do we find the peace, the joy, the gratitude in this moment? And then bring that upper brain online, bring your superconscious online, whatever you want to call it. But this is when we start being in touch with our intuition, tapping into sources that are higher and greater than ourselves, and things can flow easily. So that's now my goal. I'm not going to say I've got this mastered. Like, seriously, when we're in crunch mode, I'm just like, do whatever it takes. But ideally, in a perfect scenario, it's like, get myself aligned and centered, make sure that I am connected to source, make sure that I am fully sourced in every sense, and then ask myself, okay, what feels fun, what feels easy, what feels light, and follow intuition. So I've set the goal, I've seen the vision, I've aligned my inner world, and now I get to take one new baby step based on what intuition is telling me. And just that idea that I get to enjoy the journey, that this gets to be like an experience of love and joy and fulfillment on the day to day, not just in 10 years when I finally sell my company, then I will have earned my right to be happy and in a state of abundance. So it's this weird paradoxical shift where whatever you want to create, that emotional experience that you think it will give you, that's the emotional state you have to cultivate now in order for you to get there. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think that that's such a beautiful framework for, like, I think that's especially, again, high achievers, people who are really striving to create big things in the world. One can get success amnesia super easy. And two, we can have our eye on the prize so much that we forget to enjoy the journey and savor it and recognize that that's literally all it's actually about. Like, honestly, because that moment of like temporary, even if you hit that goal or that thing that you're striving for. And that's what I really love about that like 2 millimeter distinction that you just gave about like drive versus drawn, even like what am I being drawn to? And then that, I think that that cultivates that feeling in me of like the journey, right? As opposed to the drive. I don't know why that distinction is happening with those words for me, but it's really beautiful. I think that like we can hit those big milestones and then it like the moment it's so fleeting, right? But if we remember to be cultivating that every step of the way, I think that's what's really beautiful and something I've always admired about you is that you are not attached to it being a specific way or a specific thing. I think that that is you are ready to create from whatever needs to be created now and learn from that quickly and let that evolve as it needs to. And so I think that you know what you're working on creating. And so you're able to and I think that that's hard for some visionaries, like we're attached to a certain way of doing it, right? Sometimes. And I think that you have a beautiful flexibility of saying, I know I'm creating the ecstatic way for everyone through everything. And there are many ways that we can get there. And I'm going to trust that it's going to take the shape it needs to as it unfolds. So, yeah. I feel like that feels like a beautiful note to end on.
That feels really good. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. What a fun conversation.
I could go on and on with you for like days. I know but that's why I was like, I have like probably 50 more questions and we've also been talking for almost an hour and it's late there. And so I want to honor your time, but it's just been so delightful to just like talk world philosophy and values and like explore our journey together, explore what you've been doing since then. Cause it's again, always beautiful and exciting. And I know that theecstaticway.com is the way that people can connect with you right now as all of those iterations are unfolding. And I know that you have your show. Is that something they can get
ecstaticbusinessshow.com, I'm pretty sure. Ecstatic Business Show. Yep. ecstaticbusinessshow.com. So we do this live every week. So if you want coaching from me or one of my guests, you can show up and it's like a radio talk show. We talk for a while and then we bring on people and you ask questions and we coach you. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I love it. And one of the things I know that you're working on right now is helping people craft their $100,000 offer, right? And that's something that is brewing and in the works. Why is it important I know I said we were wrapping up, but like, why is it important for people to have a $100,000 offer?
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed these days with adding zeros to the ends of whatever people give me. People are like, I want to make $1 million. I'm like, great, let's do a $10 million blueprint. Like I want to sell this $10,000 package. Let's make a $100,000 package. And the fun thing about 10Xing, and I know Dan Sullivan and Dr. Hardy just did a book about this, so it's super trendy, but I promise I had this before the book came out because I stole it from Google. So Google has this methodology. If they want to innovate, they don't say, how do we 2X? How do we 10X? Because when you double, your brain is like, oh, well, we just do twice as much of whatever we're doing now. And it's easy. But when you 10X, your brain's like, nope, we cannot do 10 times as much as we're doing now. And so it gives you this tabula rasa, like gets to clean slate to rethink what you're doing. So whether we're doing the 100K offer or the $10 million blueprint, what we're doing is really just shifting how you're thinking about your business. So it's not just fixing this strategy, it's really like a meta framework shift of helping you to see what is the $1 million problem that you're solving? Like, what is the $1 million value that you're adding to the world in a $10 million company, right? It's just thinking through how could this organization run without me? Because after about 3 or 4 million, like you've got to get yourself out of the operations in Cassandra's case, ideally sooner. But yeah, so that having that huge vision allows you to actually make this current whatever level you're at feel a lot simpler and easier. So if we help you create a $10 million blueprint, getting to $1 million feels easy. If we help you build a 100K offer, selling a $10,000 package feels easy. So it's like anything that you want to do in your life, just add a zero or the, metaphorical equivalent of it to the end. So if you're like, well, I want to go on vacation. Well, what would it look like to go on vacation for 2 years, right? If you want to write a book, what would it look like for you to write a series of books? So it's just thinking through how can you just scale up your dreams a little bigger. And I know it's cliche, but like if you aim for the stars, you hit the moon. It's completely bogus. It's not how it works scientifically at all. But I do like the poetry of it. That when we aim big and we have these moonshots in our lives, we're going to have more energy. We're going to have more joy. We're going to have more fulfillment. We're going to be stretching ourselves in ways that we've never been stretched before. And ironically, we're going to call in more resources than we could have if we weren't doing our moonshot. So that's the thing that's really lighting me up right now, is just how do we help people to think much bigger about what's possible for themselves, and how do they serve the world 10 times more powerfully than they are now.
Well, and what I love about what you just described with the vision is like, okay, so you're aiming for 1 million. Let's craft, what does that scale look like? Let's aim for 10 million. And like in some ways, okay, that is what makes it realistic for us to hit that 1 million. But what's really extra beautiful, and again, about like how your brain works, is that it organically often turns into you're actually creating that bigger vision. It's not just we're using that to stretch to get to this lower vision. It is literally all of a sudden everything has expanded, and it is possible and probable that that bigger vision that you've never had for yourself,
almost inevitable, actually.
Right? Yeah. I didn't want to promise. Yeah.
People get scared when I tell them they're going to build a $10 million business.
It's fine. You don't have to have it that big. It's fine.
Well, that's what I have to like come in. I'm like, and they're like, and I'm like, it's okay. We're just going to keep stretching. The rubber band will get used to it. I promise. Like, we'll get you to 10 centimeters. This is going to work.
I love it. And then sometimes you just need somebody like Cassandra to come in and build it all out so it has the infrastructure to handle it, so you don't have to be that infrastructure.
Oh, yes. We talk a lot about yin and yang, masculine and feminine energy. Like, if you are a visionary, you need the yang energy. You need somebody who comes in and builds the trellises for your little vines to crawl up, so that this is sustainable and it doesn't kill you in the long run. Otherwise, you're going to implode and go back to playing small, because that's where you can control everything. So, not that I
feel ecstatic. We don't want them to feel small
and
implode. We want the ecstatic way.
Static way.
Well, Caitlin, I always feel like we are always just one idea or one like introduction away from our next collaboration with each other. I can just feel it brewing. So I'm sure that the universe is going to bring the next thing into our lives. But until then, it's been delightful to chat with you. And I will finally wrap this up there. I'm sorry for the false ending. We'll wrap up now.
Just kidding. It was the appendix, the epilogue, really.
Thank you.
I love it. Thanks, Charlie. Mwah.